Hello. 10 years ago, marketing was flush with cash. Budgets were generous, risk-taking was rewarded, and growth at all costs was the playbook. Now, though, the game has changed. CMOs are being asked to do more with less. That's fewer people, tighter budgets, higher expectations. But how do we actually make that work? And is it still possible to be bold, to create work that stands out and that matters? Welcome to Do More with Less, a monthly webinar series with me, Mark Schwakey, author of B2B bestseller, Boring to Brave. Each month, I'll talk to B2B marketing's top leaders on the necessary aspects of a Do More with Less playbook. I'm high as a kite today to be sitting with my friend Jocelyn Toonders, VP Sales and Partnerships at Inkpat. Now, as well as being a partnerships expert, Jocelyn's a proper go-to-market all-rounder. She's an exceptional leader and one of the most naturally gifted relationship builders that I've ever known. I'm also joined by the very talented Ilan Bass, experienced CMO in both B2C and B2B marketing. Ilan's a marketing and sales leader with a track record of success in a variety of sectors and brands including AT&T, LG, Disney, Coca-Cola, Canon and Uniqlo. Although he did spill an entire cup of coffee over his laptop just yesterday, which is why he's currently using his wife's computer. Good morning to you both. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. How are you?
Yeah, very, very well. Very well.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for having us, Mark.
No problem at all. I'm going to dive straight in. We are talking about how to help marketers and marketing do more with less. There's no fads here. There's no shortcuts. There's no quick wins that aren't worth something. And I wanted to get Jocelyn on for a while now to talk about the value of partnerships. Jocelyn, I've seen more talk and good intent in B2B marketing when it comes to partnerships than I have action and success. Why do you think this is?
Yeah, there's lots of reasons for it, and you're not wrong in seeing that, right? There's actually, I think there's a lot of really good stats out there around the impact of partnerships. But when we really look at it, it's only about 5% of companies that are really getting the maximum value out of it.
5%?
Yeah, it's quite small. So, those 5% are delivering more than 50% of their revenue from partnerships. So yeah, it's a hard thing to crack. But I think one of the main reasons is because partnerships can mean a lot of different things to different people.
But everybody waxes lyrical on the importance of them. How are we getting it how is it not defined so well?
I think because partnerships can have big impact, right? So you have tech partnerships, you have agency partnerships, you have influencers and affiliates, brand partnerships. They all have different purposes. And often what companies are doing is kind of wanting to solve it all through partnerships rather than really looking at the niche. Where is that partnership going to have the biggest impact? And when you don't do that and take that time to do it, that's when you start to essentially try and solve it all and do too much with less. And when actually, if you flip the switch a little bit and actually do less in partnerships, do less partnerships that are more focused, you're going to get more out of it. But most companies don't take that time to really look at that. And it has to come from leadership. It has to come from leadership.
Do you know what? There's a sorry, Ilan, I'll come back to you in a sec. There's a tension for me in talking about partnerships when it comes to a do more with less playbook, because the do more with less notion or idea kind of implies an urgency. It implies we need something now. And we know how to get it. But as marketers, you're telling us there might be something of a slow build. So I spoke to you before we came on, and I've said as B2B marketers being tasked to do more with less, I feel we're in something of a state of quiet emergency as B2B. I've seen you build partnerships of the sort that generate interest, awareness, and commercial gain. But is it a quick fix or is it a slow build? And if it's a slow build, how do you go about articulating the need to invest time and thought into taking it seriously?
Good question. I think it's neither. Not that that's the answer you want, but I don't think it is a quick fix or has to be a slow build. It can be both, but really it comes back to that foundation of, has the steer been given from leadership on what is the direction of partnerships that we're going to do and how does it align to our strategy? If that steer has been given, you're able to build pace because you know where the value is in that partnership, right? And with that direction, you can start to look at, okay, if I am going to focus on agency partnerships, what motivates those agencies? Who are the stakeholders in the agencies that I'm motivating? If you build a partner program that is kind of a one size fits all, not even just agency world, it could, like within agencies, there's different types of stakeholders. You're really not going to get people motivated to do more with you. And so it really comes down to understanding how you motivate people to get that pace going. And that has to come from the value that it drives.
And I guess finally, on the sort of, could you describe the difference between what you see? You're describing agency partnerships, you're describing tech partnerships. Let's say I'm a CEO and somebody comes to me from the marketing team and says, listen, nobody does it alone in this environment, and we want to spread our wings. We want to find businesses that have similar audiences to us and complementary capability. We can go to market with them. We can do cross-purpose collateral or events. You know, this could be a way of not spending as much, but actually getting to more people. Could you just give us a sense of an agency partnership, a tech partnership, and what it would take for somebody in B2B to start a partnership program from scratch, having not done it before? Do you need a specialist or is it homegrown?
I think I'd go back to that leader and saying, outside of lead gen, what do you want this partnership to drive? Is there a service gap that the partnerships could lend a hand to?
Right.
Is it that you are building a new ICP and you want to get in front of them, and so that specific ICP you want to start talking to them more, and a partner can help you do that? Is it that the product is going to be enhanced? And if you just say, I want more leads and I want more reach, you're not going to be targeted enough in the value. And you're going to have very surface level partnerships that people get excited about and go, great, there's alignment here. But there really isn't alignment, and it's not tied enough to people's success in their role. It's kind of a nice to have. So I'd go back to that leader, say, we need to define this more. You need to have a specific target that you want to do that's outside of lead gen. Lead gen is the byproduct of this. Yeah. What is the specific thing that you want to solve for? And
Believe
then
me,
let's build out.
I've had many conversations with CFOs. Ilan, I'm about to come to you for any thoughts on what Jocelyn said, but I've had many thoughts, many conversations with CFOs where I've tried to describe lead gen as a byproduct. Those conversations weren't my favorite in my career. Often having a conversation with anyone in the commercial leadership, certainly at times of uncertainty like we're going through now, and trying to describe lead gen as a byproduct or a secondary win is a tough conversation to have.
I think if you are finding it in your team that the partner manager or whoever's leading partnerships marketing is having to convince other departments that it's important, or having to convince partners of its value, you've got partners wrong. Scrap it and start all over, because that is not the job of marketing. That is not the job of a partner manager, to convince others that it's the right thing. That's the job of leadership, and then for those teams to execute on it.
Amazing. Ilan, what's Jocelyn said that resonates or you've experienced before? I don't know how they do it in B2C so much. I know in B2B partnerships is a vital but difficult thing to get right. What's your take on building partnerships and trying to figure out how to make your budget spread further?
It's bloody hard. No,
That was a land bass, ladies and gentlemen.
bloody hard, Mark and Jocelyn. You're right. Yeah, look, partnerships can be hugely valuable. And like Jocelyn was saying, the difficulty is aligning all of these stars, all these stakeholders, from legal and compliance to sales and marketing to your CFO, and everyone else in the organization who thinks that they're a marketer. Because that's in marketing, everyone thinks that they're a marketer. And, oh, why don't we do this? And are we doing that? It's like, okay. So you've got to get everyone to buy into this long-term vision. And something that always sticks into my head is I worked with a chief revenue officer when I was in New York, working with a company called Husay, which was like a creator marketing branded content platform. And he always used to say, whose baby is this? Whose baby is this? And it just used to amuse me on one level. But on the other, he was right. Because it was like the ownership in a partnership play is so important. Because you're driving on your side. And if you don't have that owner on the partner side who is really on the hook for making that partnership work, then it's not going to work. So you need the owners and the champions who are really driving it forward, all of the stakeholders aligned, and that's no mean feat. And then you've got to take baby steps because it's a long-term execution and roadmap. You've got to take those baby steps to show wins along the way that everyone is then growing in confidence and getting behind it to say, well, this is going to work. This is great. Let's do it, which it often is.
So that leads greatly onto a question I wanted to ask Jocelyn. Thank you, Ilan. And just this is nothing to do with our conversation, and we'll waste half a minute of time. But if you think you have a previous boss with the most hilarious slogan of all time, I would say you come close. I would say that I can beat you with when I used to work at the Grocer magazine as features editor, the Grocer magazine being a magazine concerned with all things food and drink and supermarkets. I used to walk into the editor's office and he would say things like, what the fuck is going on with chicken? And I would like, what is going on with chicken? Exactly. Go find out what the fuck is going on with chicken. But what's that based on? Have you seen or heard something I haven't? Mark, what the fuck is going on with chicken? And I would go, okay, cool. That's your next exploration. That's your next feature. Jocelyn, when we worked together at Mention Me, Ilan's just talked about whose baby is it, but also the need to align absolutely so many people across an org and make them all feel ownership and belief and spur action, which is incredibly hard. You know, it's probably easier. Some of the smaller partnerships you created with smaller agencies where we were able to table a cool event for 50 people within 3 or 4 weeks of just talking and communicating, hire a venue, get 2 free speakers. That's quick. That's easy. The SAP, the giant partnership program with SAP that resulted in SAP account executives selling our platform to their global customers from their app store with huge love and knowledge. I mean, can you give us a sense of how much work that took and what kind of wins and advantages you were able to exploit along the way to keep everybody interested? So basically, could you put 2 or 3 years' work into a couple of minutes? So go for it, Joss.
Oh, gosh. Well, firstly, it was a huge amount of work from a lot of people. And while there was accountability in the partnership team to drive it forward, it was a huge amount of work from a lot of people.
And that did have leadership buy-in, clearly.
And that had leadership buy-in. It was part of our strategy and what was talked about a lot, which made it everyone's success, right? And so that really drove it forward. It meant that legal was involved in the contract and making sure that it was set up for longevity. And, that all of these things, that it made it really successful. I think one of the biggest learns for me around it or things that we can run with is the importance of regional attention, not just focusing on what is the joint value proposition between Mention Me and SAP. It is what is the value proposition for the A's in Germany versus the solution consultants in France, and really understanding what it is solving for in different regions and speaking their language, both like figuratively and literally speaking their language in their deck, in their marketing, and making sure that you're solving those issues, because it's not the same. What the problems that we're solving for retailers in the UK isn't the exact same as Germany.
Yeah.
And so,
right, so you have SAP's buy-in, you have leadership buy-in on our side. You've got the license to carry this project over many, many, many months of different phases. But what you're talking about is giving specific AEs and specific markets with specific clients the need and the intent to actually sell us, because it could have come down from on high from their SAP overlords, but actually, look, I'm not going to sell that because I don't think I can, or I don't think my clients want it, or it's not going to make me a successful bonus this quarter. So we need to sort of convince the AEs.
Yeah, but it's all, yeah, and it's treating the regions like their own partnerships, you know, not just looking at the partnership as a whole.
Yeah.
And so
did it win for us? Did it make its own? I mean, I know it was a key KPI for the business over a couple of years. Did it pay for itself? And did it? Should I be including this conversation in a do more with less over the next 10 years? Do more with less is not going to go anywhere fast, right? It's going to stay. It's where we are now. And so I'm not talking about something you can achieve in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm talking about something your business might want to have you building over the next 2 or 3 years in order to get through what looks like more than a correction.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it did what we wanted it to, right? We generated more pipeline. We expanded into Germany. And we essentially started to partner with someone that could get us into more enterprise clients, and it that enterprise world. So those are the 3 things that we set out to do with them, and it achieved those 3 things. So, but it didn't start paying those things off until 2 years into the relationship. So the investment was in 2 years, which we also knew from the beginning that was the expectation. And so it was, if you're expecting that to happen quickly, you're not going to continue to invest the time.
Cool. Okay. Listen, we're going to move from partnerships to content created by your executives in another tactical strategy to do more with less. But before we do, I would like to introduce a brand new feature to this webinar called Do More with Less Library that I didn't just think of this morning. It's been on the cards for ages, honestly. I want to talk about a book that I came into contact with in 2012. I believe there's a second edition published in 2019. This is called Overthrow, and it's 10 ways to tell a challenger story by challenger brand agency of note, Eat Big Fish. And if you can get I think there are used ones available on Amazon, but if you want to get your hands on this, write to Eat Big Fish or go on to eatbigfish.com where they've got an Overthrow section. Speak to a very good friend of mine. She doesn't know I'm doing this. So Helen Redstone, hello. She's an incredible operator. Her mother once gave me a slap in the face over Christmas dinner at the table for being over polite. That's a true story. But the book has been an absolute mainstay on my shelf for about 10 years. It's not just seeing challenger brand as kind of little brand hitting on big brand or speaking down to big brands. It's not just thinking about challenger brands as turn every category rule on its head. It's going into detail about 10 of the great challenger stories from all over the world, brands you may not even have come across, and talking about different types of challenger brands, personas in terms that you can be a game changer, you can be a feisty underdog, you can be a people's champion or a missionary or a democratizer, an irreverent maverick, Ilan, or an enlightened Zaga or a real and human. And the point is here that if you are up against it with budget and resource and belief from your counterparts in other functions, there may be a do more with less tactical strategy in just adding some challenger persona and finding new awareness and new fans and new loyalty by looking at the tone of voice and the actions you take as a brand and as a company. And I would absolutely recommend getting your hands on this little book called Overthrow. It is it's something that's never too far from my desk. So we'll do that again, because I've got lots of books I've always wanted to talk about. And if you, I shall start asking guests. I didn't ask these guys, quite rudely, to come with any recommendations, but maybe I'll do that in the future. Ilan, my friend, I would like to talk to you, because in your last job, which I believe was in, tell me if I'm getting this right, but in New York, you worked for a bank called Bunk.
No, you got it completely wrong, I'm afraid.
Tell me if I'm getting it completely wrong. Talk to me.
Completely wrong. So yeah, my time in New York, I was with Husay, which was that creator marketing platform that I mentioned. And then I went over to the murky world of fintech and became CMO of a platform called Pave, which was online lender focused on millennials, those lovely people who had thinner credit files than perhaps older people and were deemed riskier than the market. So we set out to give them fairer rates. And partnerships was, sorry to go back to our previous segment, but partnerships was actually a huge part of that. And I'll just say quickly, because I was thinking, the do more with less when it comes to partnerships could be a little bit of a misnomer, because maybe you're doing more with less money, but the love that has to go into that is so much more, and attention on every level. But sorry.
Some of us have loads of love to give, Ilan. Some of us don't feel that that's a cost. I when I give out love, it's not a, but anyway, let's move on. What I really wanted to talk to you about was when we started talking again recently, you made it clear to me that there was a real opportunity for doing better content using your own internal executives, and that strikes fear into me. That sends shivers down my spine, just in terms of the number of things that can go wrong. So firstly, content these days needs to be video, and video needs to be absolutely high production rather than just a talking head in front of a glass office wall with a logo on it. Execs have to be good enough or well prepared enough to shine in front of the camera. There's also the overhang that if things go wrong and an exec feels that they're being made to look bad through your content, a marketer's going to risk losing his or her job. So, but you have convinced me that you got onto a really, really good thing in your career where you were able to put execs at the heart of content and make it really, really powerful and differentiated. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, like guys, obviously coming from a background of influencer marketing or creator marketing in B2C, like what's going on there? There's nothing new. You've got brands who are working with professional storytellers who have personalities or followings to tell their stories. And that all falls under really advocacy, whether you call it an influencer or a creator. And so for B2C, that's a pretty simple plugin, because people trust people more than they trust brands. And I think that there's stats, which I don't know off the top of my head, but I wrote here, so I'm going to look down here. But it's something like 82% of people trust a company more when executives are active on social media. And
is that because they are seen as they understand and can genuinely advocate from the heart for their brands? If somebody's passionate enough to get in front of a camera and talk from the heart, then that adds a level of instilled trust.
Well, certainly, yeah. In B2B, people do business with people. You don't necessarily just interface with a faceless brand. And certainly whenever whether it's subscribing to a marketing platform or a piece of technology or a SaaS product or whatever it is, it's always that customer success, that salesperson, the people I'm speaking to are the ones where the decision really comes to, okay, can we work with these people or not? And so I think it's hugely important that the influencers in your business are essentially those stakeholders and the executives. And so, how do you put them to work to advocate for your business so that they can go out there, create content, garner trust, and ultimately that will then factor into sales and growth. And I think what you said before in terms of it's got to be so polished, and what if they mess up and they say something wrong? with the whole rise of AI and all of these like AI driven avatars and videos, which are basically going to be perfect and weird, it's better to have some faults and just to be natural and to empower your executive leadership team to be able to talk in their true voice and not be completely polished. So
I've been a very, very long-term fan of bloopers. A blooper reel for me is so valuable. B2B campaigners, blooper reels, man, it's the future. Keep going, Alex. Sorry.
I agree. No, I think bloopers is basically the next frontier of marketing.
Yeah. Would you go that far? Listen, I want to talk to you about the creative part of these. Again, I have found it hard at times to get CEOs to post on their bloody LinkedIn, which feels to to share or post about the events that we're building that are going to essentially look to grow their company or hit the strategic goals. Just getting them to post on LinkedIn, and even more. I don't mean pathetically. Well, I do mean pathetically. They say, "Well, you just do my LinkedIn for me," and it's like, wow, okay. How do you kill the glass wall talking head?
Yeah, so it comes down to a content format thing, really. Like, what are the formats, and how are you going to make it easy for people to actually talk about their field of expertise? And I think when you really get into it, most people want to talk about their expertise and everything that they've amassed, all the knowledge and information they've amassed over the years. So it's how do you make it easy for them? And often I've found the best way is some sort of interview like this, where you're really getting the talking points and getting them speaking and feeling comfortable. I think asking executives and leadership teams to just be set up, to just do it themselves. Hey, go and record this and take 30 minutes and make sure that you're doing this every week. That's going to fail. So you do need support. You need people in the mix. You need themes. You need topics. You need formats. And
you need agencies, because most B2B marketing teams are made up predominantly of measurement people and tech people and workflow people, and not so much anymore, I find, from the sort of creative direction people or those that are, those that are equipped to really think and visualize beforehand a video storyboard and screen tests and coaching. Are you talking about bringing, because I'm trying to do more with less here, so are you talking about I need an agency, I need a video agency, or is it possible to do this stuff in-house?
No, look, I think, with platforms like the one we're recording on, shout out to Riverside, there are incredible technologies and platforms out there. And now you've got this proliferation of AI video editing tools. So very much it can be done in-house, but there are a rise of really great agencies as well. And if you think of doing it properly and the people that you'll need internally, the cost of that may outweigh a demand gen agency who are giving you all of the pieces of how to record, what are the themes and topics to cover, how do you distribute the content and market it. So that's really a sort of finance decision on who do you have resource-wise, stakeholder-wise, internally versus an agency. But I think from a performance perspective, it makes total sense, because I think it's something like 25 to 30% increase in the visibility of posts that come from a personal account versus a brand. And that's pretty major.
With that B2B as well, do you think?
That is B2B, yeah. So it just outlines that how important it is to be activating your personal like the stakeholders in your business, to be posting in that way.
Have either of you, no need to mention names, but if you want, have either of you ever had a situation where execs have been very keen to be the face of, or be involved at that level, but you've known them to be somebody that might not be your first choice, or might not be that way talented, or you wouldn't, you don't, is there a difficulty when people want to get involved who might not have that skill set? Is it about skilling them up, or, that feels like a potential conflict?
I can go first on that. So so many different tastes out there. And so something I would keep getting reminded of in marketing, especially, is I think a piece of content is great. That, I'll write some ad, some piece of copy, some article, whatever it is, and put it out there. And I think this is going to kill it. And then it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, why has that not worked? And that is because, you never really know how it's going to play with the audience. And so you judging someone internal that you think, oh, that person sucks and they shouldn't really be on this, is actually, there may be like an engineer, like a bunch of engineers that really dig it and were like, oh, this is exactly the data and the content we really want. And as a marketing leader, you have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, most B2B businesses, 99% of them won't have this kind of budget. But I saw, when I was thinking about our conversation today, Ilan, I remembered a Workday campaign. The Workday is I think it's like a financial services and HR tool from a couple of years ago, where they used the likes of Ozzy Osbourne and Billy Idol and members of the rock band Kiss and Joan Jett to make fun of us tech people that call ourselves rock stars. Now, we don't have that kind of budget, but I also know of a client of ours over at Orbital X that in the States that has found an incredible face for to front up campaigns from, I think his title is like project manager, but he's been a storyteller before through Netflix and through all sorts of TV companies and location companies and filming companies. He's a genuine storyteller, and they found him, and now they're really, really. I mean, he's becoming highly in demand. So I guess the lesson is you can find those magic performers and presenters anywhere.
I think you can also look at different types of format. So different people are comfortable with different things. So I've done it in the past where I have had leaders that aren't particularly great in front of the camera, but get them talking to a partner about a subject matter that they're really passionate about, or get them talking about something outside of work that maybe is slightly related, but there's something they're really passionate about that you can bring some storytelling into. And seeing like those different things that you can pull on and making sure that like they're comfortable with that format. I think that can work really well.
And have you found success by, I know that one of the things that I genuinely watched you do with admiration and tried to emulate when we worked together was finding your relationships with every department and every personality, every level of seniority, from the very top where you were to people who'd just joined, getting that trust and getting that. I mean, have you found success in the past by putting other people in the spotlight or in the meeting or in the front of the camera, other than those that might have been kind of expecting to take that spot?
Yeah, of course, 100%. Like empowering others. And often what you get is people don't necessarily want to do it, right? They're like, they're doing it for the first time. It's scary, whatever it is. But getting other people's voices into a conversation, whether it's in the room or them running, like getting on stage instead of you, after it's done, everyone's always so happy that they've done it, right? And they're always, wanting to do more of it. So I think it's really important to get different voices. I mean, having your exec team speaking is so important, but who are they speaking to? And what are the other personas that are getting involved in the conversation? I think is part of the mix as well.
Yeah.
I will say, coming from a background of marketing and financial services, you're under a lot of scrutiny and specific restrictions in special ad categories, and GDPR, etc. And that's really problematic when you're running ads. And it also means that if you are bringing executives into the limelight and doing some storytelling and content, then there needs to be a little bit of media training. But on the other hand, it's almost a workaround as well to get around all of the restrictions that you find in your targeting, for example, because you could do a purely editorial story with those execs and be driving traffic to a blog type post. And then, you're not just advertising the brand of the bank, but you're driving traffic to an editorial destination, and you can therefore circumnavigate all of those restrictions and then move people into your conversion funnel. So yeah, while it can be a little bit problematic in like finance and those restrictions, it can also create amazing opportunities for you.
And is there a part of it, question for both of you, is there a part of it where I suppose the onus is on the marketer to come up with the story for the campaign to start with? Because campaigns and videos and content can be really, really transitional. They can come and go very quickly. You can use them once, maybe post about them a second time, and then we tend to move on. And one of the things I've been thinking very, very deeply about as deeply as I get to think about things, in terms of do more with less, is that we need to find stretchier, more elastic stories that can cover a brand for a longer time. If you think about the average B2B sales cycle, it can be anything between 3 to 18 months, right? Depending on what it is you're selling and how many different people you need to sell to in an organization. It can be an awfully long time. B2B sales cycles are far longer on average than B2C sales cycles. And yet, I've tried to find some figures, and it seems that B2B campaigns, and this feels right instinctively, B2B campaigns last a damn sight less, far fewer weeks and months than any B2C campaign. We don't stretch these things out. We don't give ourselves the chance to hammer home the message about who we are, so that people see it enough times, hear it enough times, feel it enough times to really recognize what we're saying about ourselves as brands. We tend to get bored of our own campaigns after a month or a quarter at the very most and then move on. It drives me crazy, because you do all that work and put all that time and focus onto building these resources and preparing your executives. Is there something that we need to get better at? Finding stories that will stretch and be elastic and be cover far more blogs with different stories that hang off the same umbrella, far more videos, far more events, far more, webinars, whatever it might be, even digital ads. Finding the stories that will convert into each format and each channel over a longer time and just settle and be okay and relax with it. That must be a saving on time, if not cost.
I mean, something that we did recently that has worked really well is our founder, we put a day aside with her, and we had 5 themes around like different things throughout the year that we think that we'll talk about. And we just had a day of filming with her, just a full day, asking her tons of questions, her bringing in a few things. And we now have 6 months of content based on that. We can still be agile and maybe the theme of the month of what our campaign is and bringing those things, weaving them into it. But we kind of had a 5, the overall things that we thought that could create more of that longevity and that consistency throughout the year. But I think that's worked really well for us.
Yeah. And I love those shoot days because you can capture so much content and then sweat those assets across a longer period of time. And that's exactly what we're talking about. But, do more with less in terms of, I think there's a larger question at play in how people treat marketing or understand marketing. And the CMO is, I think it's still the shortest tenured position. So you go through these boom and bust cycles where a new CMO comes in and is like, right, we're going to get rid of all the stuff that the old CMO did because clearly they were useless. And we're going to implement the new world order. And then they spend a whole bunch of money and investment and get everyone G'd up. And then maybe those marketing campaigns don't deliver soon enough. And then they start getting scrutinized, and everyone in the organization who thinks they're a marketer is telling them, well, we should be doing this, X, Y, and Z. And the CFO has an opinion on how to market to people. And then that goes bust. That CMO leaves and we rinse and repeat. But, I think it's something like an average of, 62 touch points now for a customer in B2B to make a decision on engaging and potentially purchasing. So that's a lot of touch points over a long period of time. So we need to get out of this short-term thinking, which is expensive short-term thinking, to this longer-term storytelling, which ultimately, yes, is going to be longer time frames, but probably less investment in terms of money and resource.
I mean, I heard that there was in the first episode of Do More with Less, which you can still watch on demand. It's still available, with a very gifted CMO called Matthew Robinson. He was talking about one of the big superpowers marketers need to develop, if they don't already have, is a sense of conviction, and a belief, and not just an ability to articulate and pitch and get buy-in from elsewhere, but to actually believe in what you're doing so strongly. I mean, we were talking about how many times we've been 2 years into a 3-year plan that was agreed with the CEO before being ejected from the business, and how frustrating it is, not just for you needing to start again, but for the business that needs to start again with a brand new personality, with a brand new set of ambitions. And so if we can get to the point where do more with less can mean let's stick to our guns and let's have that agility and that flexibility ready, but let's do that big day of shooting and burn through a ton of story opportunities for the next year. It really does take the pressure off in terms of time, focus, resource, and cost. Guys, it's been an absolute delight to talk to you. Thank you for joining me on this second episode of what I think this series is going to run into the 2030s. I think this is going to go for 10 years or more, I'm sure. Please. And we have a couple of questions just in time for leaving. Alison says, are you going to do an episode on AI? Yes, Alison, I have every intention of doing an episode on AI. It seems like the obvious topic right now, but here's what I'm not prepared to do. It feels to me like there's a massive, sprawling, multi-ended conversation going on just on LinkedIn, if not elsewhere on the internet, on AI, and not much of it is particularly intelligent or nuanced. I commented on a post I saw 2 or 3 weeks ago. My fingers were itching. I was trying to tell myself not to get involved, but I commented on a post about 2 or 3 weeks ago from what looked like a very serious business guy in Norway, who said it's now possible to build an entire marketing team from one person and these 25 tools. And there is a conversation to be had about doing more with less, using AI super intelligently. So if any of you know who exactly I should be talking to for that conversation, I'm still trying to find the right one. I want to make sure that we add value. And John says, is it all about video? Is content creation right now video end off, or is that too simplistic? Over to you guys.
In my opinion, and the data listening from Australia says,
we have a massive listening in Australia, so thank you.
Yeah, huge following in Australia. The data suggests that video does perform still really well. That is coming down a little bit, but I think that's part of the whole equation. You really want articles, static imagery as well, like the whole mix. Video is great as a lead, but then, in B2B especially, I think driving people to a destination where they can actually engage with a topic and read an article, and you as the brand and the company are capturing first-party data, which is so important. We've spent years of social media platforms saying everything should live on our platform. Just keep driving traffic and adding content, and no value add coming our way as a brand. So yes, bring them to your destination, get them to engage, and that can be a mix of content.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. Jocelyn, thank you. And best of luck at Impact. I hear it's going incredibly well, and I can't wait to hear more stories from you. Ilan, the market's favorite B2B and B2C fractional CMO. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for listening and joining. And please tune in next time when I will be talking to a chief revenue officer at one of the world's biggest category leaders about what he needs from marketers in the era of do more with less. Thank you.
Thanks for having us back.